Are we online? Oh, great. Okay, thank you and welcome. My name is Thomas Schmidt and I'm the co-founder of transnational group. Oh, that was right. Welcome to you visitors there online. We have some Twitter account and email account if you want to contact us from the online viewers. Some hashtags that you can use. Today we will talk about the smart currency that will be in the future of the smart society. So this is our first presentation for you, and it will be of around 25-30 minutes. Okay, we start. We will talk a little bit about IoT and a smart society also. And I think we already know today that all around us we have things that connected to the internet. And that's what we call the Internet of Things. They are I think it's in every area in the society today. So we have in healthcare, in agriculture, and everywhere we have things connected to internet. However, all this installation will give us some problems that we need to solve. We have some barriers to resolve to have this smart city to become smart. And in 2016, a national intelligence, James Clapper, says this: America's greatest threat is the Internet of Things. And that is a big question. It's not only nuclear war, terrorism, it's everything. But this is the greatest threat. And why is it the greatest threat? That's a question that we have to answer. This is a few years ago, but it's still really important. I will give you some simple example of why is it important and why are we wonderful. If we just take this as it looks in Sweden anyway, electricity meters that we used to have for 10 years ago. It's connected to the electrical system with a wire. And that's all. When we want to have our invoice, we have to read the meter. How much have you used? And you will have your invoice. Today, we have an automatic one. This is the Internet of Things. Normally we don't think about it, but this is the Internet of Things. Still have the wire connected to it. But we also have another line that's connected to the thing that we have outside. And it's connected to a data center. So when it's connected to the data center, if you have some bad guys, or what you call it, with bad ambition, they could join with the attack to the data center and in a certain time cut off all the electricity in the city without even being there. So this is the reason why natural intelligence says this is the greatest threat, because we don't know how good is the security in this data center. This is normally a company who deliver the product, so we don't really know, and that's the reason why it's a big, wonderful thing for us in the society. And if you also think this is electricity, or it could be water, or whatever, that's the reason why. So, what do we do to resolve these barriers? We have a worldwide organization, IEEE. You can Google what IEEE is, but it's a worldwide organization who's working with standards and a lot of more things for new technologies. They have developed the new standard Iot Harmonization, which is a new standard for IoT. How should the IoT things connect and talk to each other in this society? It's all about security, privacy, interoperability and monetization. All these things, it's a huge area today, and a lot of technique and explaining around this, which I'm not going to talk about today. You can follow this up with our colleague Peter, who is here. We have had 6 sections about this that you can follow online on YouTube, and to see how to build a smart city in this new, secure way. But okay, when we installing the IoT, we make the city very technical, but it's not necessarily smart. We say today, we install all these IoT things to make a smart city. But what does it smart? If you just install the system, for who is it smart? For you, or for the company, or for the whole society? We think it's not getting smart just to install the IoT things. So what you need is what we call smart contracts. It's a digital smart contract who makes it able for you to connect to each other, for the things to connect to each other and create monetary transactions. We think this is the most important part that's missing today, so we can use the whole society to be smart. So what do we do with this smart contract and the monetary transaction? Where I come from, the Trust Anchor Group, we have developed the technology for money transaction and use normally payment suppliers today to connect to the system, so you can have transaction in the smart society in a smart way. So this is what we do in all this. And if you look about the structure of what this means, of course we would like to have some operators. We have operators in the society today. That's the engine for the transaction of monetary transactions. Because in this kind of society we need a structure for a microsystem for all the developers' product. So if you develop a product in this whole society, you can put it in the store so people can download it. And also smart contracts. So when you have downloaded the smart contract, you can use it in your thing that you have. And there will also be a store for blueprint, like if you have done any solution, you can share it with others. So we together build a smart city. And to make the transactions even easier, we have developed a smart currency. It's not just digital, it's also digital and smart. So it will be useful in this IoT structure. We call it eDaler or eDaler. It's come from the Swedish dollar that we have before. So this one is new. What does it mean with the smart and digital currency in this structure? For the first thing is that we connect the dollar to the normal banking system. So it's not a blockchain structure or something like that. It's adapted to the bank system. That's very important for the rate for the exchange rate, so we have a stable one, and it of course are very protected against theft because it's very secure. It's secure by design, and it's also secure with some functions that you can, insure your currency. If you lose it, you will have it back, and so on. I will explain a little bit more about that. It's friendly to the environment. It's not the blockchain, so it's not the main thing you have to do. So it's not a big issue for the environment. The important thing is also that it works online and offline. So you can have offline transactions. If you should have a digital currency that if it should be successful with this, it have to be working offline. Otherwise it will not be an alternative to the cash that we have today. Of course, it prevents money laundering and financing of terrorism. That's really important today. And the privacy is by design very important. And it's also adapted to the Iot Harmonization standard. So what does it mean for the end user to have this eDaler? It works offline. What does that mean? Does it mean that when you came to someone and the internet is gone, you can put money to one phone to another? Of course you can do. But it also means that you can, for an example, just print it out on the paper and say, here you have a QR code, and it's $100, and it's addressed to you. So it's only you who can read the QR code. That's what it means with the offline transaction. Of course, it maintains value over time because it's in the banking system. You can send it in what way you want. You can send it on a paper, as I told you. You can send it on like an SMS or an email. It doesn't matter. It's secure, and it's addressed to the one you want to send it to. So no one else can have it or take it from you. That's what we mean it can be insured. And of course the ownership is protected. So this is what the dollar will do for you as an end user. And of course, for the big organization, the free market is better than planned economics. So this will be a function that let the free market explore. So you can have a feedback from what your investigation. I will show you an example of that. And of course, Industry 4. We have smart grid also to make it less electric for the smart societies. It supports micro and nano transaction also. That's important in the smart society. Okay. If you have any question, feel free. We will just have a microphone there if you want to have any question. Here's an example of what we mean with the whole structure of microsystems or microtransactions. If you, for an example, buy a weather station for $1,000 or whatever, you have a sensor, you have an Internet of Things. That's your product. If you connect it to your gateway, it doesn't have to be a specific computer or something. It's just a gateway. You connect it to it. You connect the contract, the smart contract as we told about, and you can let anyone see the temperature on your sensor or whatever it could be. And the smart contract lets you set the cost for the transaction. So if you want to look at the temperature, you pay whatever it might be. So it go back to your investment. So this is the whole structure of the new IoT of harmonization. So this is how it works. So I will go back to this page, and we will have today with the new IoT harmonization standard that IEEE is behind. So if you have the bridge, you connect it to the broker, and you have the operator for the whole system. So this will be another type of transaction that we can see today. Okay. The presentation was quite short, but we are on time. So I think we take the question, if you have any. Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned there would be a store.
Sorry, can we have a microphone? Otherwise the online viewers will not see here what
you mentioned there would be a store where you can buy applications and smart contracts. Can you give some examples of what kind of applications and smart contracts that would be?
Yeah, of course. Smart contract, if you compare to what you have today, if you want to rent out your flat, you go to the store and buy a contract where you fill in. This is a kind of the same type, but when we talk about Internet of Things, it could be as a contract. For an example, if you want to buy, we have this. If I want to buy the sensor temperature from you, it will be built on a smart contract. So the smart contract could be in whatever you want, actually. So I don't know, Peter, do you have any good example of what a smart contract could be?
So you can hear me? So a smart contract, basically, the difference between a contract and a smart contract is that the contract can be machine readable. And so the IoT harmonization effort that Thomas mentioned has a generic approach to smart contracts. And for this particular example, which is called provisioning, an owner of any type of device can define a contract where the contract stipulates the requirements for access. For instance, to have access, you pay some amount of eDaler, for instance. For reading or for controlling, you have that right if you sign the contract, but it has a price tag. And so to make it more concrete, the simplest case is, for instance, sharing a sensor. You invest in a sensor, costs 1,000 something, and others want to use it. So you say, okay, you can use it if you accept these conditions. And these conditions come in the form of a smart contract. And if they accept, they start to use it. And if it's a good sensor, the person will get money back. And so they will have money to buy a second sensor, in this case. And so for the same money, they could actually create a much larger infrastructure. That's the simplest case. In a more complicated case, you have companies that do similar things. For instance, in a smart home, you have different service providers that want to do the same thing. They might want to install a camera. Who would like to install a camera? Security service, or e-health service, or neighborhood watch service, all want to do the same thing. So would you like to have 3 cameras doing the same thing, or them sharing, for instance, the same equipment? And so this type of resource sharing between completely different domains can be automated using smart contracts. And these recipes that you asked about would be blueprints for these kinds of services. How you could connect, how you can utilize devices from one domain like security and use it in e-health. Is that answer to your question?
Thank you, Peter. Okay. Any other question?
Second question.
Second question.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that it would work offline, these payments. So how does the receiver verify that the transaction is correct, and how do you prevent the double spend?
Yeah. I think that that question is a really technical one. So I think you can have a discussion with Peter after that, after the seminar, because the technical part of how we do this is not open standard, so we cannot discuss exactly how we do this, but we can explain it for you. But it's in the offline transaction, we have the whole structure to handle that would not be happening. Okay.
Yeah, I have
You have
a
another-
question.
Yeah, take one more.
Well, I have the microphone here. So the question is about privacy by design. So in what way do you have privacy when using this currency compared to Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, of course. That's why I told you earlier. We have 6 sections that we have told about all the steps in this new IEEE standard, where privacy is one of the part that's really important. But basically, it's based on XMPP, which is a new communication. So in this we have the privacy, and it's a federated system also. So I think if you talk to Peter, you will have a long explanation about exactly what that will mean.
So, because if it's truly private, then it will be very popular among terrorists and other illegal criminals.
Okay. Peter, can you give a short example of the privacy for this?
Okay, so first, we have to differentiate between private and privacy. So obviously privacy is the right, your right to choose with whom you speak. Now, the difference between eDaler and your blockchain is that transactions are not all open. And it's federated, meaning that you have what's called trust providers that provide trust. It's based on trust instead of distrust. Blockchain is based on distrust. This system is based on trust. And you have trust providers, and trust providers assure the legal identity of participants. And so the participants can exchange monies between each other, and the trust providers make sure communication is always authenticated and authorized. Privacy by design means that all entities get as little information as is absolutely necessary to be able to comply with all legislation. So the goal obviously is not to allow criminals and terrorists to use this currency to transfer money. And Finansinspektionen and other financial authorities will have the possibility to monitor transactions and so on. However, they don't have the right to know what's your private information, the motive and what you're doing. So this is privacy by design. It only records the absolute minimum required to be able to perform the transaction, and it's federated, meaning no one knows the whole picture. Is that an answer to it?
Okay. We have one more question here. Peter, was the microphone on?
Yes. So, thank you. Actually, I was going to ask how you positioning yourself towards the decentralized systems like IOTA, but I think I really did get a better understanding after your answer.
Okay.
But I can still ask from a more higher level, how do you positioning yourself? How do you see IOTA compared to your solution?
Actually, I'm not so into IOTA, so
Yeah.
so are you into IOTA, Peter?
I mean, it's
Or
just a
Stuart, or
size.
So
Peter, come.
there is a second microphone here, but I didn't get it to work. So there are several service providers that provide a monetization of IoT, and IOTA obviously being one known. The goal here is data is never stored or processed by the infrastructure of eDaler. So Thomas mentioned here the IEEE Iot Harmonization effort, and it promotes an architecture in which services and devices communicate directly between each other in real time. The data does never pass through the infrastructure as such. And secondly, the infrastructure, as you recognized, is federated, and it also is based on legal identities and smart contracts. It's more general in a sense. Is that an answer to your question?
Yes.
Okay.
That's blockchain based.
Yeah, of course, yes. But it's
Oh,
still
okay.
solves this, that's a little bit same problems in this area.
You could say that this would solve the same kind of problems IOTA solves
Yes, exactly.
as
But in a
one
different
use
way.
case.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any other question? Okay. In that case, we have coffee and some to get some sweets. And we thank all the viewers outside from the world, and all you here. And yeah, keep in touch. Thank you.